Have you guys ever wanted to see a samurai show that's based off a hip hop thing, or or a principal suplexing a deer, or if you're normal, your typical hand-drawn animation that leaves you with so many life lessons and heartwarming moments that will leave you satisfied for the rest of the week. Japanese animation, or what most people know as anime, is an amazing world that's been close to my heart since I was a child. And today I want to introduce you to the reason why anime is such an incredible world by speaking about the variety of shows, the films, and the art style. We all binge watch shows and watch movies that can relate to our childhood, and I guarantee you, if you dive into the world of anime, you wouldn't have to look too far to find a show that you like. So first, I'm going to tell you about the variety of anime. Anime has your typical action-based show, your typical love show that legit leave you in tears, and your typical comedy show that leaves you laughing no matter what. The uniqueness of each show is vast. And we all remember like regular cartoon shows like the Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy or Foster Homes and Imaginary Kids, Danny Phantom. Those are all unique shows, but what about a show about the medieval devil, Hoaxan, who gets sent to the human world and finds himself working at McDonald's? It's pretty different. The life lessons in the shows are real. They vary off of different variety shows. This one is a action-based show that whatever this guy says, he's not the main character. It doesn't make sense, but it leaves you empowered and motivated to take on life. Or one listener here is about a teacher who was he was a gangster at first, but he ends up becoming a teacher and teaches a class full of rowdy students the importance of life. Next, I'm going to talk about, or my second piece of evidence, I'm going to talk about the films. This right here is a man named Hayao Miyazaki. He's a legendary filmmaker, creator of Studio Ghibli. This studio is compared to Disney. Some call it the Japanese Disney. It has amazing films. This one in particular, called The Wind Rises. It's about a real aeronautical engineer who first dreamed of becoming a pilot, but found motivation in becoming an engineer and decided to pursue that. Another amazing film artist. I haven't seen most of his films, but he does create his amazing films as well. His name is Makoto Shika. And one film in particular that was amazing, I haven't yet to see it, it's called Your Name. It's about two kids who switch bodies, and they travel to the world and find each other to get their original body back. The short films are amazing too. They're just like 6-minute short films that are music based, but it does have a story if you want to watch, if you actually pay attention to the film that's going on. This one in particular, Shelter, was created beginning of 2017, and it's amazing. It was created by Porter Robinson. He's a famous DJ. hit top 25 DJs in the world before he hit 21. It was created by A1 Pictures, which is a animation studio, and Crunchyroll, which is a animation, an anime licensing company that's kind of like pretty much like Japanese Netflix. Okay, well, the art style is different. The art style has a lot of vibrant colors, as you can see, different from regular animation, which usually just has the colors that correlates to its certain background. It wouldn't have all these vibrant colors, but the colors go with it depending on what anime it is. This one right here is it's a video game based one. Pretty much to survive in this world, you have to play games to win, to live, to earn money. This one is from a story from Hayao Miyazaki from Studio Ghibli. It just shows the simplicity of someone looking through a bush. You can relate to the characters when you see small stuff like this. Makoto Shika, the quality isn't that really well seen right here, but he focuses more on background information, on the background nature, and it's beautiful to watch a film. I'm gonna play a small video.
Haste for its often cheap tactics of achieving audience known as gekiga, a form of manga akin to more safe bits of achieving audience reaction with the over-expressionism of its characters, and so he tends not to focus on the large flashy movements in his animations, but the more subdued subtle ones. The characters he presents will perform with familiar idiosyncrasies, whether it's someone walking on their knees to avoid treading on a carpet, or a little girl tapping her shoes to ensure they're on correct. It's actions like these that enrich the characters of Miyazaki, as it often can be something as simple as the minutiae of an action that can emphasize who that character is. His characters can be extremely expressive at times, and the quality of the animation most definitely helps this.
The realism that's created in anime is unworldly. I hope you guys can see now that the world of animation offers, or what the world of animation offers, the different varieties that are amazing, and whether it's your typical show or your typical comedy, or the amazing films that can keep everyone's heart warmed, or the art style that can never be matched by the simplicity of animation colors, expressions, and plot settings. And I hope next time you guys are watching Netflix or scrolling down your catalog, you're really bored, you guys can maybe check one out.
All right, Edward, what did you think?
He had a good attention device. His main points were clear. I think he used like a little bit too much pictures, but it matched his evidence. His voice was loud. I think he needed to face the audience a little more. I think he should have used some statistical data or quotes about anime and how people think, because he compared it to the Disney, so I think he could have done statistical data on that. And the video was good. It explained anime, and he explained how anime, the art of anime and everything. I thought his presentation was good.
Okay. Trevor, could I get you to turn the lights back on? Thank you. All right, well, you start with a series of rhetorical questions, and I think that's going to be okay. It's clear what your topic is. I think it could be a little bit more focused. It's kind of a generic introduction to the subject matter. And there's a preview at the beginning that gave me kind of a list of what you were going to talk about. That, however, seemed like it was the last time that I could pick out something that was clearly organizational in nature. After that, it just seemed like the information is flowing and there's not as distinct a structure as you ought to have. And I'm not saying that it didn't exist, but I didn't think that it was detectable in the presentation. And so you need to work on that a little bit more. The thing that Edward was just talking about concerning the video, I like the video, but it sounds to me like the video is one of the places where you got your material, because they said almost exactly the same thing you said about the girl walking on her knees to avoid treading on the carpet kind of thing. And I like, it's not that that's a bad thing, but you need to, give us the citation. And I don't know who said that. Whoever put that video up, for instance, it could just be another fan who is noticing those intricate moments, and you're kind of citing that particular person. But that's the only place that I get a lot of citation or any source for information that you're presenting. I don't doubt anything that you're saying is accurate, but you're not giving us any citations about where that information comes from, and that's a problem. We get snippets of descriptions of some of the stories. They go on very brief amount of time. And I guess what we're supposed to get out of this is that the stories in anime are going to be different. They emphasize different kinds of things than animation that we might be familiar with. But I don't, like Edward said, you kind of compared the Studio Ghibli to Disney at one point. I think maybe the styles of the animation could be talked about a little bit, whereas the Disney's frequently based on fairy tales that talk about a moral lesson and end with a hopeful note, often at contrast to the original fairy tale. What do these kinds of stories do? How do they work differently? Why is this something that is distinctive that pulls us in, instead of just giving us the little bit of description of, the teacher who used to be a gangster, or the kids who changed their bodies? What's different about those kinds of stories other than just the story itself, the themes that they're focusing on, or the way in which they're relating to it? It feels a little bit like you are dancing around those things, but you haven't really focused in on that as the thing that you want to talk about. I think the audience is going to be interested because animation is always interesting to people. There are people who enjoy it. The video clip helps a little bit. On the visual materials, I do think you'll notice that there's at least one slide where there's just way too much information on. When somebody asked me the other day in class, well, what do you mean by talking about one thing at a time? That's going to be a slide that I could remember in my head and say, here's the problem. You've got 4 different images on the slide, each of them with separate information that you're going to talk about, and you've got them all up at the same time, and it's like, this is going to be complicated. It's going to be hard to follow, and I'm already looking at 2 other things before you've even talked about the first or the second one. So it needs to be a little bit more simplified for the presentation. The delivery issues, I'm going to come right out and say you're going to have to change some of the things that you're doing. You can't use the phone for your notes. The phone's too small. Your attention is always going to be on your own hand. It is really distracting. Did I not tell you guys the story about my daughter's wedding?
No.
my son-in-law decided it would be a good idea to have his vows on his phone and use that during the presentation. Oh, not only was it not romantic, he got lost at one point, had a hard time reading it, and says out loud, "Worst idea ever." And I'm going, what, marrying my daughter? Or what you just said, dumbass? You know? Because it draws attention to what you're doing instead of what you're saying, you know, and that's really a bad idea. I know that people want to use, I mean, let's face it, it's technology, it should be easy. Well, if you had the phone on the podium, on the lectern, for instance, and you were looking at it occasionally, it might not be a big deal. But when it's in your hand almost the whole time that you're speaking, it is just a constant distraction. And I think Edward pointed out, he was a little bit more polite about it than I'm going to be. You delivered most of your speech to the screen. You're talking to the screen, and you're not talking to us. We just happen to be in the room while you're having this conversation with the stuff that's up on the screen. So you got to do a better job of engaging with the audience. All right, thank you.